And good morning, Hoosier Nation, and welcome to a victorious edition of Hoosier Morning After. This is Hoosier Morning After Eastern Michigan. Your Indiana Hoosiers go on last night to beat Eastern Michigan 68-62 in a game that was very up and down. Lots of great energy to start the game. First two made baskets looked good. 3-pointers by Parker Stewart. Parker Stewart brought a lot of energy to the game and everything. And then things kind of fell off in the first half. We'll kind of get in depth to it a little bit in this, but Eastern Michigan makes a layup and two quick 3-pointers to get the game within two. Race kind of goes out at that point. Something that we'll kind of talk about in this show, kind of a theme of race kind of being a glue guy that we have. A few turnovers to start. Into halftime, we lead to a 36-19. Second half, obviously, coaches got them coached up. In the locker room, things looked a little bit better. Things were running on steam. Defense find their assignments. Things looked a little bit better. 14-minute mark, IU was up 48-23. Race sits down with 4 fouls. Again, there you go. There's a little bit of a theme with this. Next 4 minutes, IU seems off on both sides of the floor. Guys are scrambling on D, and a few misses on the assignments on D allows Eastern Michigan to go on a 12-2 run and bring it to single digits for the first time in the game. IU and Eastern Michigan kind of trade baskets for a while, and that is when Noah Farrakhan, I think I'm saying it right, turns it on in true IU basketball karma fashion. The kid had only scored 2 free throws to that point, and with 5 minutes left in the game, goes on to score 16 points in the last 5 minutes of the game, including that one made free throw on a 3 free throw trip on quite a flop. But in the end, IU closes it out and ends up winning the game 68-62 in true IU shooting fashion and stressing us fans out fashion. So let me go ahead and introduce our guest that we have on for today. Doesn't need much introduction. One of the most charitable Twitter IU basketball, or IU, I should say, sports figures out there, allowing so many fans to see the games for the first time. So many memories created for kids thanks to this person. My guest on the show is Martha the Mop Lady. Martha, welcome to the show. Talk to me about your thoughts on the game.
Yeah, I think you were spot on. You know, I mentioned we were chatting a few minutes before we went live and just talking about you sent out a tweet after the game and it had the phrase PTSD on there. And really that's what it was for me, especially in the second half, a tale of two halves, really. You go into halftime and you start the game with 2 quick 3-pointers and you end the half with, a lot of the new guys contributing and feeling really good about what you're seeing, the energy, the pace, the excitement. And then you lead into the second half and it's the PTSD hits. It's the demons of kind of the last handful of years. You've got a freshman guard on an opposing team that nobody's really heard of going off. You're missing free throws, you're missing 3-pointers. The offense looks stagnant. So again, I appreciate this type of platform because it's the morning after and it allows things to kind of absorb and sit in, because I can tend to be, as anybody that follows me on Twitter knows, I can tend to be a little reactive after games and so it kind of allows you to kind of sleep on it, and you keep in mind that it's just one game, right? A lot of these guys, this is some of their first action against individuals other than themselves together. So you've got to keep all that in mind, right? This is a whole new roster, a whole new coaching staff. So you take that into consideration, but some of what we saw in the second half was eerily similar to some of those demons we've seen the last handful of years. So, we kind of are what we are until we prove that we're not. So while I was excited about some of it, there certainly were some concerns, and hopefully Friday we can shake some of that off.
Yeah, I agree. And it's again, we can say excuses all we want, and they are excuses, but they're also facts. This is truly the first game. And like you said, this is the first time a lot of these guys are playing together. And what a game like this, where there are struggles and difficulties that happen, the benefit of that happening so early and in the season in a game like this, there's great tape now. these guys can sit down and study this tape and look through this game, see where the defense broke down. Because there a lot of those runs, it was times where the defense wasn't talking. Guys didn't seem locked in as much as they were, especially at the beginning of the game, because the defense was just firing on all cylinders.
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of knew a little bit of this going in, and it'll be a learning curve for us overall because it's a new coach, and we'll see what is he talking to us about and what are we seeing on the floor. And well, what I've learned from this game is that Woody is definitely telling it to us straight. We knew going into this that defense was more locked in on this team, and that the offense was having struggles and was a little bit behind. And that's what coach said, and that's what we saw. But again, they've got some great tape going into it, and they can turn it around. Now, the first kind of storyline that I want to point to that I kind of alluded to breaking down the game there was this team needs Race out there as much as possible. You can talk about him being the glue guy. Well, in this game, he proved that he's the glue guy. He's the floor guy. He's the I-beam holding the ceiling up. He's everything for this team. And you see it in the stats that he had the highest plus minus at plus 18. Almost the only one, I think, in double digits and plus minus even for the team. Let me look real quick. No one else was a higher plus minus, even above double digits. So he's a very important player for this team and does those things that you need to get into it. What did you think of Race's impact on this game?
Yeah, no, I think you're spot on. The one thing that I think I would add to that is I appreciate coaches' willingness and openness to allow individuals to shoot, but I don't know that I want Race Thompson shooting 3-pointers. Went 0 for 4 from the 3-point line, and some of those were during that second half spurt where we couldn't seem to score, and I don't know that that's the best option. And I'm not trying to take away from your point of saying that he's a glue guy. He is, but he certainly, I think he had 10 rebounds. You'd love to see him in double digits. I think he could be an automatic double guy, and I think he ended with 5 points. I think so. While his plus or minus was strong, I think his impact on offense needs to be a little bit more, and I don't think that that's going to come from behind the 3-point line unless he starts proving he can make them. But right now, I'm not sure where that's his offensive strong suit, and I'd love to see him kind of take it down to the post a little bit more. But again, to your point, he's a glue guy, specifically on the defensive end, and it seems like whenever we need something good to happen, he's right there in the mix of it. So I was really pleased with what I saw from him outside of the 3-point shooting, and would love to see him kind of tone that in moving forward.
Well, and you mentioned the 3-point shooting, so we can go into that next. Stat line ends with IU being 4 for 24. Just the question that I would wonder is is there too much green light for guys to shoot? Has coach made it too much of a comment for the guys to shoot the ball? I mean, he did mention in the post-game show that some of those shots were too early for him, that he'd like them a little bit later in the shot clock. He'd like guys to look for the shot a little bit more. But he did say that there were some open ones that were missed that they are hitting in practice. Is it too much of a green light, or were the wrong guys taking them? Is it just missing it? What's your take on that?
Well, yeah, when you make, you go 4 for 24 and 2 of those 3-pointers come within the first couple possessions, it's ultra frustrating. And again, yeah. I really thought this was where guys like Miller Kopp and some of the new guys would come in and Parker Stewart made his first 2, but those were his only 2 that he made. So really thought we'd see more of an impact, and that's what every time I heard coach talk about the green light from deep, I'm like, okay, these new guys are going to come in and have the green light and make that impact. And I didn't feel like we saw that consistently over the game. So, I to your point, I certainly appreciate his willingness to allow these guys to shoot. But, you've got to have some of these new guys, start to connect on them. I think Kopp was 0 for 3 from behind the arc. And he's a guy who was, you might have the number, but shot a high percentage historically over his career from deep. So that's kind of an outlier. I think you'll see some of these guys, shoot better certainly than they did last night. I mean, you got to go back to kind of, you look at the roster and look at, some of the new guys combined with some of the freshmen from last year. This is their first time playing in front of a crowd in well over a year. So what impact did that have on it too? So some pressure, you combined all the factors, and I think that certainly came into play. But I certainly, feel like they're going to come out and shoot better from deep than the 16% that we saw last night.
Yeah, and we got to realize it is a small sample size when we're talking about one game. So,
yep.
But I did try to break it down at least as far as those that we would expect to shoot it more, and meaning guards and Miller Kopp and everything like that. And that squad was 4 for 17 or 23%. So, like you said, Miller Kopp was 0 for 3. Giving him at least 2 of the makes out of those 3, which is honestly not out of the realm. And then Rob was 1 for 5. So you give 1 or 2 more to Rob, and you're looking at maybe like a 7 for 17, and that's 41%. So that's more in the realm of, I think, where this team could be, and that individual squad could be with shooting those threes. Again, with a larger sample size and more games, we'll kind of understand what the team looks like from the 3-point better. But someone that you mentioned there that I want to kind of get more in depth with, that I enjoyed seeing when I was out in the Bahamas, and we saw at the beginning he kind of disappeared, was Parker Stewart. We saw his shot looks amazing. He's got the best looking shot, the direct inverse of Xavier Johnson's shot, which is the ugliest thing.
That was really, I'd watched a little bit of the Bahamas. That was the first time that, watching a game and I saw his shot, and a little taken back by it. But
it is. But Parker Stewart's lockdown on defense, his aggressiveness, and we're going to see many times where I believe could be the top scorer and the second scorer. Talk about what you thought you saw from him, and how you think he's going to contribute.
Yeah, I thought it was, obviously, connected on his first 3-pointers, but only ended the game with 5 shots. So to your point, if it's almost the point where if he's one of our top scoring threats, we've got to find more opportunities for him to shoot the ball, right? So that's my thought, because clearly he's got the talent and the ability to do so. We knew that coming in, kind of, when we got word that he was joining the squad last year. I remember we struggled so much last year with guard play. Everybody was like, let's play Parker. Just because of the known scoring ability that he brought. So it was good. It was good to see his contributions early. Obviously, you wish that it was a little more consistent over the stretch of the game. But I think as he gets more comfortable, and again, we've got to remember, this is his first live action in quite some time. Lost his father, last season. He didn't really play at all last season. So again, he's just getting back into it. So, it's a tough mix. You're fighting the demons from the past, all the while keeping in mind this is a brand new squad with brand new players and a brand new atmosphere. So it's trying to find some middle ground and trying to determine what we saw from that point. But I really liked what I saw early from Parker Stewart, and would love to see that a little bit more consistent over the stretch of an entire game.
Yeah. It's exciting. It's exciting. It's very different to go from the excitement and the buildup of the offseason that we have, and then you have a game like this, because you expect to come out firing all cannons and everyone clicking and everything. But you got to realize this team, again, is new to each other, and they've been playing against each other. They haven't seen as much action against other people. One stat that I'd like to go into that was a positive to it, was that the team had 8 turnovers. 4 of those turnovers happened in the first 6 minutes of the game. Now that was early in the game. 2 or 3 of them, I believe, were Xavier Johnson, just kind of forcing some things, and guys just not on the same page, which I think those are going to clean up. And if these guys continue to play with each other, you're going to see a lot more chemistry, and they'll read each other. They'll know where each other are going to be on the floor. So those little drive dumps are going to be a lot better, more heads up and everything like that. But turnovers looked good. What'd you think of IU taking care of the ball?
I did it. Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that. It seemed clean, right? I think, when we look at the teams of the last couple of years, just some of the carelessness with turnovers and things of that nature. That was one area, and I'm glad you mentioned it, that I really thought we looked a lot better. And I think that's encouraging, especially being the first game. There just wasn't the carelessness with the basketball, the pointless turnovers. While there were certainly still some problems that existed, turnovers wasn't one of them. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited that the fact that we can, point to, just some of the other issues that seem a little simpler to clean up than carelessness with the basketball, because it seems like that can kind of be part of your identity, and for that to not exist this early, I think is encouraging. So I'm excited about that moving forward for sure.
Yeah. And well, speaking of those turnovers, when Xavier Johnson was having those struggles, it was then when we saw Rob come in for the first time, and Rob comes in, and we see Rob of old. He comes in the game, he makes a driving layup, and then he shoots a three. And I don't know if you were like me, or I bet a lot of Hoosier Nation was sitting there just willing that shot to go in so much because for his confidence and everything. Because that was one of the biggest talking points in the offseason was getting Rob's confidence back, getting old Rob back, getting that kid, us all rooting for him, getting that kid back to where we know he can be. And I think we saw some good moments from him. I don't know that I saw old cautious Rob as much. What did you think of Rob?
Yeah, I certainly think that he came in with a confidence. I think he took 11 shots, second most on the team. So Kurt, obviously he's getting some encouragement from the staff to be an offensive force, and I think he can be. I think to your point, it's just it's coming back with some more confidence and finding that confidence again. But yeah, he had a little, I think, a little running jump shot right around the free throw lane that went in, and you're just like, okay, if we get this Rob Finney, we've got a chance to do some things. So I was encouraged by that. I don't know necessarily that we want him taking the second most shots on the team, but again, it's one game, so still trying to find his stroke. But I was certainly encouraged about what I saw from him. His body language seemed better. He seemed like he was leading out on the court, and I think that's what we need from Rob as a senior. So really encouraged with what I saw from him. I'm so excited to see, kind of how I don't want to call Friday a bounce back game, but I'm curious to see how they shake some of this rust off. Cause the more you think about it, it's tough, right? You're combining. On one hand, you've got all this newness, all this, there's so much new. And on the other hand, we saw so much old last night, and you're trying to figure out where the truth is with this squad. And you can't do it after one game. So I think that's where I need to take a step back, and really I go back to, this platform that you provided, I think is a really neat thing. So just excited to see what certainly what Rob looks like on Friday, along with some of the rest of the issues and things we've talked about.
Yeah. And we saw in the game as well, lots of different combinations of guys out there. There's truly no rhyme or reason. We got to see Rob and X play together. Everyone was kind of concerned, how are those two going to split minutes? Is it going to be back and forth between them? And it wasn't really definitely one guy in for the other. I mean, you definitely saw Coach trying different combinations, Galloway getting out there, but definitely kind of stuck with at least having two of the bigger guys, combinations of Race, Jordan, Trace Jackson Davis in there. I believe there was at least one point where we went kind of a little bit smaller and had TJD and Miller Kopp in at the 4 kind of position, but that wasn't for too long. But a lot of players got to see playtime. The only 3 that didn't see it, 4, if you want to include Durr in that, but he didn't dress, were Lander, Leal, and Logan. Maybe Coach just doesn't like L names or something, but
Didn't think of that.
But yeah, what do you think of the combinations, the different subbing and guys playing different combinations playing together?
Yeah, I did see, to your point, I did think some of the lineups that he put out there were interesting, and I think this is unique. I'm used to seeing them in a couple I know they had the private scrimmage and things of that nature, but I'm used to seeing them in a couple exhibition games, or in that type of atmosphere. So this had kind of from a lineup standpoint for me, kind of an exhibition field, trying to find some mixes that work against competition. So you take that into consideration as well. I was a little surprised that we didn't see Leal or Lander out there. Maybe we will on Friday. I'm not sure. I kind of expected it with who else did you say didn't play?
And Logan.
Yeah, I kind of expected it from Logan Duncombe.
He might still be a little banged up or something.
Yep. Kind of maybe some discussions of a possible red shirt. I'm not sure. Just I think a lot of the depth comes into play, obviously, but I thought the lineups for the first game, you kind of expect some of that. Let's find some mixes that work and whatnot. Was really more surprised with the guys that didn't play, I think, more than anything. But really liked, and maybe we're going to get into it, but what Trey Galloway brought. I think that, and I think that, obviously he's at his best when he's surrounded by guards that can score. He's I don't know that we can ever look upon him as a guy that is going to go out and score the basketball, but he's going to do a lot of the little things well, drive to the basket, find open shooters, things like that. And I think we saw some glimpses of that from him. So I'm excited about, him, what he's going to bring to this offense as we move forward too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we can go into him. I mean, he obviously didn't shoot it the greatest. Again, like you said, I don't think that's going to be something that we're going to go to for him, but he can be kind of that bulldoggy, gluish guy moving forward for the team. And there was concern, obviously, for me with him going into the season, defending a two or a little bit faster of a guy and how he would do that. And I think he did great with it. And I think overall, Indiana did really good on defense and containing their guys. Last year, that was always a little bit of a complaint. It seemed like a lot of teams could just get downhill on us so easily. And guys were moving their feet and very active hands from everyone overall, just getting their hands in there, forcing steals, not chipping away balls when they could. So yeah, I think Galloway, he gets caught up in I think he only had one that I can remember. But last year, my biggest complaint with him was he's really good at driving the baseline, and then he gets caught in the air and doesn't know what to do with it.
Yep.
He had that happen once, and we'll probably see that. That's just kind of, I think, a reflex for him or a go-to kind of move for him. But he's got the vision, and I think he's got the mentality. And there were a few times, and I think I saw it more from Rob, more of the old guys, when we were kind of down and struggling, and we needed to kind of settle and at least just get a high percentage shot, and which means feeding it down to Trace. And those two were kind of one of the better guys at doing that, at getting it down to him when we needed it to go to him. So yeah, he's going to be a good player moving forward and finding his place. Now you mentioned also Lander there, and I think just because of how this game ended, we're going to see him as more of that guard that goes in towards the end of the game when things are handled. That's kind of how it was last year. That's what happened in the Bahamas. And I think just the closeness of the game, I think that's why we lost minutes from him, or why he lost minutes. Go ahead. You got something?
Yeah, no, I think with him and it's important for everyone to remember that this should really be his freshman season. And it's important for him to remember that too, as patience isn't something that we see a lot of in college athletics anymore, right? Especially with options to move teams and things like that. So, he came out early, so again, I think he's 20. Is he 20 yet? 19, 20. So he's still very young. It seems like he's been around for a little while, and everybody's like, why isn't he playing? Why isn't he playing? But it's important to remember that he should have been a senior in high school last year. He's really just a freshman this season. And so we got to keep that into consideration. And hopefully, as we move forward, we've got some opportunities to get him some minutes, especially as we lead into the conference season. So, I think in a perfect world last night, the game would have been taken care of mid-second half, and we could have seen a little bit of action from him, but unfortunately that wasn't the case. But hopefully we have some of those opportunities as we lead into the conference season.
And last night, let's go into a few plays maybe that you liked or you saw as we went along. And I think it was a lot of high energy, and we definitely saw that fast play. We saw guys being able to rebound the ball and take off immediately and everything like that. Obviously, my vote for play of the game and fun of the game, and I even, every time that it's been tweeted out, I've been also commenting with tags to ESPN and top 10 and everything, was Jordan Geronimo showing his athleticism, his heights. I mean, TJD throws that alley-oop way up, and the way he just threw it, I mean, he basically threw that into the hoop. He's going to be an amazing player. We didn't see a lot from him. We saw some meaningful minutes though from him because of Race getting into foul trouble. But what do you think of that play, and what do you think overall of Jordan?
Yeah, I think the sky's the limit for him. I thought the play was fantastic. To your point, just ESPN written all over it, and just really showed off his athleticism. I'd like to put him in position to make some more of those plays. But yeah, I enjoyed that. I'm excited about we heard a lot about kind of the strides he had made in the off season. Just you look at him and he's just kind of a he's got a freak body, right? He's just got athlete written all over him. So you can just kind of see him growing into his game. And I think by the time, we get into this season and in the remainder of his career, I think the sky's the limit for that guy. I really liked some glimpses I saw of Tamar Bates too, as well. I mean, his length that he has. There was a couple plays he made in the first half, just driving the ball to the hole, and you can just see his ability to create space and get to the hole, and then his length to be able to finish. I would have loved to see us get him more opportunities going downhill, because I think that's when he's at his best. But you just saw glimpses, right? And I'm excited about his potential as he gets more gameplay at this level. I think he's going to be a star as well. So really excited with what I saw from him. Plus he went 2 for 2 from the free throw line. So I'll take that too.
Well, and you bring up some very important there. Something that we were missing in the past seasons was those players that can go downhill at will and get to the hoop, and that's something that's been lacking. And we saw that from Tamar, like you said, but also saw it from Xavier Johnson in true kind of Yogi-esque fashion. Was able to run the court a couple times and get to the hoop, but is able to get to the hoop pretty much at will. Something that will open up things elsewhere for dump offs, kickouts, things like that. Another thing, obviously, that leads into the 4 out 1 in situation, or the kind of play that got us very excited, got me at least very excited at the beginning of the game, is Trace Jackson Davis on his second made basket. Gets it at the 3-point line, takes about 2 dribbles just inside the circle, and makes a long jump shot.
Yep.
I know Hoosier Nation was very excited when they saw that. That's going to open up a lot of things. What were your thoughts when you saw that?
It is. No, I was, because we heard a lot about that, right? When Woodson got the job and was interacting with Trace in terms of getting him to come back and how he wanted to develop him for the next level. And it was just that, right? It was creating a little bit of an outside shot. It was using his offhand. So to see that so early, I think that was super encouraging. And again, if he can, not only what that would bring to him, as far as his game and being able to take it to the next level, but also for the team, to your point, just, if he has the ability to step out and knock down shots, that's going to create for everybody else and make us really, really dangerous. So it was really encouraging to see that as well, and hope to see it, again on Friday. I think it's going to be massive for us moving forward.
Mm-hmm. And the amount of energy he was able to do. I mean, he just sits 3 minutes in the game. It ends with 37 minutes, and still has that motor. Definitely conditioning has been reinforced big time in the offseason for this team. Even shows that he still had the energy in the second half. Excuse me, having another one of the greatest plays of the game, having a block on one side, blocking it off the board, keeping it in bounds. Xavier Johnson grabs the rebound and then immediately sprinting down the court. Honestly, I think he even kind of pushed Parker out of the way, or
Yep.
Parker had to kind of get out of his way, and leads to an alley-oop on the other side. So that energy and that speed that we have in the team is great to see. Again, it echoes what we saw in clips and what I saw in the Bahamas of anyone gets the rebound or anyone gets the ball, you go. You go immediately. You don't turn and look for the guard to bring it up. If you've got the ball, you're going, you're pushing it. Now, it didn't lead to a lot of quote unquote, you would think, fast break points, but it allows you to get into the offense quicker, to catch the other team a little bit off balance. What are your thoughts on the speed of play and how you saw that in the game?
I was encouraged by that, and just back to Trace, his his effort on not only obviously on the offensive side, but just getting back and the transition game. I think as we continue to improve and gel as a team, it's it's going to be exciting. I think that you go back to the glimpses of the positives you saw, and when things were clicking there in the second half, the pace, the speed, it was controlled speed, which I think is just as important. It was really, really encouraging to see. And I think it speaks more to the potential as we start working out some of these kinks on what we can start seeing more consistently too, because it's there. I think you look back at the seasons past, it was always like, who's going to create these opportunities? Do we have the guards that can even allow us to play at this type of pace? And you saw some of the fact that we do now. And, while it wasn't consistent across 40 minutes, it certainly existed. And again, it's game one. And as we get some more experience together, I think that it just speaks to the potential of this squad and being able to do it more consistently.
Yep. Going to be an exciting year to get into. And
it is.
And it is, again, it's one game, and in true IU basketball fashion, here we are analyzing one game, but we're such an excited team. And there's plenty of other, you can go watch Assembly Call. They're analyzing it last night too. So we love our basketball. We're such a passionate fan base and everything like that. Any other kind of storylines or plays or anything that you want to touch on?
I continue to look at the newcomers. I'm really hoping that Miller Kopp can come out and have a really good game on Friday. It just seemed kind of quiet. He had that one, I think he had an and one and situation late in the second half, but really it just didn't feel like that there was a huge amount of involvement from him, or you didn't hear his name mentioned a lot. And again, you go back to it being one game, but he's a guy that you thought would step in and be a double figure guy consistently. So you really want to see something from him, on Friday, just in terms of contributions. And again, it's just the involvement, right? You want kind of the second half to be an outlier. You don't want it to become a consistency like we saw last year. I think that's, it felt so eerily similar to last season and the demons we saw last season, and just it was going through my head. I'm sitting here, every time you look that, what was his name? Farrakhan. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right,
yeah,
but it was
something
just
like Noah.
Yeah, he goes scoreless in the first half, and then he's just automatic in the second half, and you're like, here we go. And the dude couldn't miss, and just keeps chipping away at the lead, and so it's just washing a lot of that away and keeping it an outlier and putting together a consistent 40 minutes of basketball on Friday. So looking forward to that considerably.
Yep. And you bring up Miller Kopp, and he's one that I think that shocked me. I think was one of the more shocking things of this game for me, being in the Bahamas and seeing how being able to be so close like we were, how private that game was. You could hear everything, and he was the most talkative player out there. He was always coaching guys and talking it up on defense, and behind Trace Jackson Davis was the most vocal during those games. So to see him struggle in this game to find it, I don't know if it's nerves. I don't know if his ankle's still not 100%. But hopefully he puts that behind him and keeps going from there. Speaking of vocalness, though, there was one more note that I wanted to bring up is something that I saw at a race. I saw a lot of leadership out of him. There was one point where I think the team was lining up for opposing free throws or something, a dead ball situation, and Race was sitting on the bench. This is when he had 4 fouls, and he's coaching up one of the players that's on the court. He's talking and everything like that. So that was really cool to see. And then there was also a moment going into a timeout before the coaches had descended upon the players and started talking to him during the timeout. Race was in there talking to guys and mixing it up. So his leadership, you can see it there. And again, it's going to be very exciting to see how his game grows and what he brings to this team moving forward.
100%. And I think that's, something that, if you think back to the last couple of years, that it never, at least optically, right, it never really felt like we knew who the leaders were out on the court, right? And I think that was pretty consistent over the Miller tenure. It's just, nobody stepping up to be that leader. So to your point, it was encouraging to see some of these guys take that role and responsibility, at least from our seats at home, and because that's what you need, especially as you get into the grind of the Big Ten season. You've got to have some players take that role of being the leader. So again, I continue to think some of what we saw yesterday is going to be the outlier. I don't think Miller Kopp consistently is going to, go 1 for 5 for 3 points. I think the thing about it is they expect more from themselves, and I think we'll see that as a result on Friday.
Yep. And I think Trace Jackson Davis said that to a degree, and everyone's kind of a win and move on.
I think he tweeted, Rome wasn't built in a day or something after the game. So
yep, exactly. So his mind's on that, and we'll take it, learn, and move on. Go ahead.
It's a fan base that is so hungry for something positive. And that can be good or bad, right? They're easy. We are easily triggered. And when we see something that we've seen painful over something that was painful over the course of the last, handful of years, we automatically think, here we go again. And, I think in this situation, being one game, being, all the variables that come into play, it's like, all right, take a step back, which is what we're doing this morning, right? It's take a step back. Let's evaluate this. Let's, we've got another game here in a couple of days. Let's see how we come out and play again and go from there.
Yep. So moving on away from that for a second, I just wanted to, having you here on the show, I wanted to give you a chance to just kind of mention as well, with the great stuff you do with getting tickets for people and everything like that. Just talk to us about and put out there, if someone has tickets and wants to give them out, how do they reach out to you? And then if they are trying to go, how do they reach out to you as well? Talk a little bit about how you do that and how that comes about.
Yeah, I appreciate that greatly. Right now, obviously, it's all through Twitter. If somebody has tickets, they'll reach out to me and they'll inform me that they've got tickets that they can't use, and IU makes it really, really easy to transfer tickets. So there's, in large, individuals will have tickets. They'll be able to transfer them electronically, whether it's football or basketball. So how it's worked historically is individuals will come to me with those tickets, and then I'll send a tweet out and ask for, kind of qualified individuals to go. And we try to keep it narrowed down to a youth parent combo or first timers. I really try to spend some time qualifying the opportunities. So, in short, if you're looking to go to a game, reach out to me on Twitter. If you've got tickets you'd like to donate to the cause, reach out on Twitter. We are in the process of creating a nonprofit organization that's going to streamline a lot of this. And I think it's going to do a couple things. One, it can be really challenging to navigate the ticket stuff through Twitter, right? You're having DMs come in, you're sending DMs out and tweets out, and it can be a lot of work. This non-for-profit will allow us to streamline a lot of this. And I think more importantly, provide it more visibility. We kind of want to take to the next level. IU basketball, IU football means a lot of different things to a lot of us, right? I was raised on it. It takes me back to spending time with my grandpa. And I remember going into Assembly Hall for the first time as a youth, and just the impact that the place has had on my life. And that's our goal. We want others, whether they're less fortunate, whether they're, they don't have the means to go down, whatever it may be, we want to provide the opportunity for as many people to experience, the joy of going to an IU game as possible. And that's really what we're trying to do here. We're going to announce some exciting things here over the course of the next few weeks in terms of the non-for-profit organization. And with that, there'll be a different way to donate your tickets and get in touch with us. And it's exciting, really excited to take it to the next level. And especially with fans back in the stands and getting as many people down there. You've already started to see it through football season. Last night, we sent a young lady to her first game who has spina bifida.
I saw that. That's great.
Yeah. And, she got to go with her mom, and it happened really quick, and we were able to find some individuals to help her get down to her seat. And you could just see the joy in the mom's face. And she talked about, the emotion that she had taking her daughter to her first game. And that's what it's about for us, right? It's getting individuals to experience, some of the stuff that I think some of us can take for granted, right? If I want to go to an IU game, I go to an IU game. But there's so many, I think back to, I try to take my mom to a game a year. She's a big IU fan. And like I mentioned, we're up here in Fort Wayne, and try to take her to a game a year. And when IU's cooking and when they're good, I always try to make it a good game. And I want to get her good seats. If we're going to go down there, she's going to go to her game a year. We're going to do this right. And you can end a day like that spending $500-$600 by the time you buy a
Hmm.
couple good seats, get some meals, whether you stay the night. It can be really expensive, and it can be impossible for some families to do, right?
Hmm.
And again, it goes back to some of the stuff that I think some of us can take for granted that others might not have the opportunity to do, and you go back to how special that place is. We just want as many people to experience that as possible.
That's great. That's great. And guys, that's at the Mop Lady on Twitter. That's where you can find Martha. It's just great. And those of you that are listening to this, and if you're ever thinking that you may not be able to make it to a game, you want to try to see if you can sell them or something like that. Just take a step back and think about that. Think about the little bit of money that you'd get from those tickets, how that impacts you, how little that might impact you, but how giving the tickets away, allowing Martha to find someone that can create those first time memories and everything. Think about how much more that is worth than the money you would make from selling those tickets. So just reconsider that, and please really think about giving those tickets away so he can create these memories for these people and everything. So that's just fantastic. And
Yeah, it is. And one more thing I'd like to add real quick is none of this would have been possible over the last handful of years without the giving of Hoosier Nation. These tickets, you see these smiling faces. It's happening because of what you just said. People are selfless, give up their tickets, to the cause, and it's not like I'm going out and buying these tickets. These are Indiana fans giving their tickets, so it's already happening. I think we can take it to the next level. So I appreciate you saying that. But I always try to make sure that my appreciation is known for those that have given to the cause, because it's been a really, really awesome thing. So thank you.
that's great. That's great. So thank you to those that have given tickets. Thank you to Martha for being on with me today. Indiana plays again on Friday against Northern Illinois. I believe it's a 7 o'clock tip. I believe that is going to be on BTN Plus. We'll see when that comes out. So that'll do it for this edition of Hoosier Morning After. Please join us Saturday, the morning after that game. Not sure who the guest is going to be yet, but keep an eye out and you'll see that. Special thanks to Bob Thompson for producing the music you hear on the show. That's going to do it for this edition. We'll see you next time, guys. Until then, go out there, have a wonderful day, and let's go Hoosiers.
The Hoosiers.